So we have an amazing debate ready for you today, a little bit different than the panel discussions we've done before. We're going to be talking about the concept of SD-WAN and specifically pure play providers, those folks that's all they do. They are experts in the SD-WAN field versus the all-in-ones, those amazing suppliers that can do it all. SD-WAN, UCaaS, connectivity, security, all in one bundle, all in one bill. We're going to find out today what's the best strategy for your business. Is it pure play? Is it all in one? Is it a mixture of both? And we have got an all-star group of panelists here today. And we're going to be doing this kind of presidential debate style, so hopefully we'll mix it up a little bit. So I've got a couple of folks to introduce here. Panelists, I'm going to go through all of your intros real fast, and then we'll get to the fun. First off, coming to us from Aryaka, Olen Scott, former boss of mine, great guy. Eric Brooker from Bigleaf Networks. Shane Hurst from WAN Dynamics, a name you might not know, but you darn well should. Pat Herron, old cohort of mine as well, from Call One. Terry Patrick from Hypercore. Scott Rubinson from Masergy, and last but certainly not least, Mr. Seth Gibbs from Telesystem. Not Telesystems, it's Telesystem. Get it right, folks. All right. So panelists, thank you so very, very much for joining us today. We are bound and ready for one heck of a, well, you know, honestly, we're not exactly sure what's going to happen here. This could be just a fun discussion, or it could go completely off the rails. We're going to find out. So we're going to get started right up with my old friend, Pat Herron. So Pat, coming to us from Call One, one of our best new all-in-ones. What sales strategy is powering Call One's success today?
Well, it's not one thing, Chris. It's actually, you know, a number of different things. First, Call One, we're a channel first company, right? Everything we do in terms of growing our business is all through the channel. We back that up also with putting SEs out front. So we've got an SE basically for every 3 channel managers. And we try to make sure that they're a part of the discussion with the partner, with the client on every time there's a solution design. And that's the key, is that solution design, the solutions approach. You know, we continue to broaden our portfolio to make sure that we don't just have, you know, everything looks like a nail when all you have is a hammer, right? We're just trying to make sure that we've got the best portfolio of capabilities. Like we just introduced a new SD-WAN platform, perfect for this panel, right? It's a Meraki powered by, you know, Cisco Meraki, fully managed solution, and it includes something kind of unique. It's got we are offering a voice gateway to ensure that voice continuity and voice quality is assured, regardless of which Call One voice or third-party voice. So something brand new, just another tool in the kit. And another reason why, you know, we're solutions oriented and bringing those engineers to bear. That's how we do it.
Great answer. So, you know, obviously coming out of the gate, all-in-ones, taking care of the total solution package. All right, coming to my good man, Olen Scott from Aryaka, warning him to make sure he's off mute. I'm just warning you, Olen. How has the SD-WAN market changed, my friends? And how do you feel that partners can best take advantage of the pure play solution with Aryaka?
So, you know, the SD-WAN, the way I'd say the SD-WAN market has changed is really, I'm going to answer that as more as how has cloud adoption changed? Because that's the big tail. That's been the big tailwind behind SD-WAN for, well, at least the 5 years that I've been selling SD-WAN, right? And over the last, if you just look at the last 4 or 5 months, right? And you know, this year, but especially since this pandemic started, it's about the greatest advertisement you could ever give for cloud compute, right? Compute is moving at warp speed to the cloud because, you know, applications that reside on servers at your office do you no good right now. That's why the whole planet was scrambling for VPN connections, right? So the pace of cloud adoption has accelerated so dramatically, right? That all customers are looking for cloud optimized solutions. And that's SD-WAN, right? Every one of us has a solution that makes a lot more sense for cloud adoption than an MPLS network, right? Which is hairpin and inherently not suited to a cloud world. Where I think Aryaka differentiates and where we can help our customers is where I think partners stand to offer your agents stand to offer their customers a better experience is that most SD-WAN solutions sit at the edge and make intelligent path selection based on application priority. But it can only pick one of 2 paths. It is usually internet and internet or internet and MPLS. and where I think partners can have an advantage with Aryaka is that there is an option 3 that many people don't know about, which is it's only an internet connection to our provider edge, and then it's all a layer 2 private core. That's the reason why application performance is our superpower. By the way, I am watching my clock. I promise I'll be done here in 18 seconds. So that's where we benefit partners, right? Is that they can sell them the get in at a low price, right? Compete with MPLS and get the table stakes connection, right? That does the path selection. But then there's all this frictionless upsell path for the partners to make more money, the private core, the cloud connectivity, the next gen firewall. And that's where I think we differentiate.
All right, fantastic, Olen, right at the 2-minute mark, and just great answers too. Obviously, Aryaka comes to us with very much a huge strategic mindset in that pure play, and they talked about optimization of the network. Cost optimization is also incredibly important to a lot of our partners today. So, going to my man Terry Patrick at Hypercore. How important for you is cost optimization in that SD-WAN discussion, and how does that help benefit that all-in-one strategy?
And then that is part to the all-in-one strategy as a whole is that piece to it. I mean, typically when somebody is going about trying to find an all-in-one or trying to bring everything under one umbrella, it's not that they're replacing one SD-WAN with another SD-WAN solution and coming to the house, something like that. It's more so they're trying to find a way to be able to reduce the overall cost that sits out there across their network as a whole, bring in something, one line of support, one line of billing, everything simplified as humanly possible to that customer. And so the cost aspect to it is huge. I mean, if we're able to find a way to be able to grab 100 locations or whatever the case may be, save them a ton of money, give them more functionality when it's all said and done. Like now you're showing true total cost of ownership when it's all said and done. So that's kind of what we look at when we start having these conversations with these customers, just as a whole. It's a huge part of our strategy. It's a huge part of our conversations is that overall cost structure. So yeah, it plays very well for us.
Fantastic stuff. All right, now we get into...
I want to redirect on that just for a second if I can, just because I think it's really
important.
All
right, we're mixing it up. This is what I want. Let's go.
Let's go.
No, this is not to oppose Terry, but I think, I'm like, man, look, price matters. I get it. You got to get value for your money. But my experience with most agents is they want to grab as high ARPU as they can get away with, right? I want as many dollars as I can possibly get and still win the deal because that's how I get paid as a percentage of those. So, we've had a lot of success with partners. When we go quote deals with our partners, we've been quoting them like gold, silver, bronze, and we always have these extra stuff added in. Invariably, bronze never gets sold. The cheapest one never gets sold. But you have to have the conversations. You got to unpack, right? Where's the pain?
Sure.
And you can sell all the next gen firewall and cloud compute. We have partners that are starting a conversation at 175 a site, winning the deal at 690, 700 a site. So don't.
All right.
Oh, shots fired! Oh.
So Terry, 30 seconds here. How do you feel about that? I mean, is it always just cost optimization, or is there room to add some margin, like Olen suggests?
No, typically from a cost play, there still is margin that's there to actually reduce that overall cost and still provide those products. For instance, I mean, with VeloCloud, we don't bring in that entry-level side to it. We only bring the enterprise side to it from the gate, from the start, because that's the products that they actually need and still reduce their overall cost. So there's a way to be able to do both. But ultimately, that customer, if they're coming to you and you're going to them with $100,000 extra in cost as a whole versus what they pay right now, you're going to run into a problem. But if you can give them all the value and a cheaper cost to it, there's a win.
Fantastic and great stuff there, guys. Again, the total message is actually the same for both of these folks is yes, you can optimize that network, bring those costs down on the network side, but ultimately you can add a lot of value with that SD-WAN solution. All right, we're going to the man with the beard, Eric Brooker from Bigleaf. Eric, Bigleaf has taken advantage of the current marketplace in a way that many others have not. You have jumped on the work from home revolution. How is this paying off for Bigleaf, and what challenges are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say from a work from home perspective, we still have our standard office solution. The short answer to the question is we had our second greatest month ever in June. Work from home. We've gone from 4.7 million Americans working from home in January of 2020 to today, there's about 85 million Americans. They expect this Zoom interaction, the GoToMeeting, the Ring Central, the Nextiva experience to be positive. The problem that they're having is the home network, home internet was not built for 85 million people and their kids to be working from home, watching Disney Plus and Netflix. So for us, it's been great. Our work from home SD-WAN with a single circuit or more than one circuit has been a great solution for us. Again, we're continuing to see a lot of the standard office SD-WAN coming off the shelves as well. In terms of the challenges from the CNSG partners and partners all across the country, our biggest challenge is getting out to tell the story. We're having a lot of people reach out to us. You mentioned before we started recording that that I'm on a lot of these. I'm on a lot of these because people want to learn about our work from home. It comes with its advantages. It's a month-to-month solution. So if and when this COVID crisis ends, and if and when you decide to go back to the office, if you need to, just ship the device back. We're finding, though, that there's still going to be, statistics say 20 to maybe 25 million Americans are going to permanently be working from home now. So things are going really well for us.
Well, the only thing I would argue with that point is I don't think it's just about you explaining the Bigleaf solution. People want to see that beard in high def as much as possible. It's very important.
There you go.
All right.
Take that.
So moving from work from home to a little bit more of one of the advantages of a lot of all-in-one providers is their ability to layer security on along with connectivity and everything else. Scott, my good friend at Masergy, your strategy actually pivoted. You've been doing SD-WAN for a long while, but you recently pivoted to the proven name, a very popular name in the channel of Fortinet as part of your managed network design. First off, why the change? And two, how can partners take advantage of this with Masergy?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Great question. So those of you who know Masergy know, first of all, we're a channel-first company. So 97% of what we do is through the channel. And those of you who sold Masergy, particularly an MPLS network in the past, know that it's really our core network that's our strength, right? That's got the highest SLAs in the industry. So when we originally look for partners, we look for SD-WAN partners. We look for SD-WAN partners who would kind of complement that core network. At the time, we were still doing Fortinet as our primary equipment to help back up. So when you sold an MPLS network, you were able to use a reliable, secure backup with automatic failover, kind of in the cable modem / MPLS days. So Fortinet was kind of always there, and we tested a few other providers to see how they kind of merged into our network. And Fortinet kind of proved to be the leader. We had baited it with a few customers that were using the Fortinet D-Series at the time a few years ago. Their ability to take a security-first approach to SD-WAN and their ability to integrate into that Masergy core was really the reason we pivoted, and we're really all in with Fortinet now at this point. So MPLS is no longer a network solution. As you guys know, it's more of an access method. So we have the ability to use the Fortinet devices to make our core network run the SD-WAN. I mean, we've been software defined from the beginning, but now that access methodology can be 4G, broadband, internet, or at certain key sites, MPLS. You don't need to have MPLS at all the sites, just at key sites, maybe where you have servers or data centers and things like that. So Fortinet integrated into Masergy's core has kind of brought out the best of both. If you were to read the Gartner strengths on both the Fortinet Edge and the Masergy core, you would see that we really complement each other. So we're still able to offer those SLAs that everybody's used to. And that pivot to Fortinet also allowed us to really work with our existing base to migrate them with, site by site with very, very little downtime. Again, still able to offer those SLAs of 100% in-sequence packet delivery and 0 downtime. So for our SD-WAN solution, because of the way we route through our core, in an HA deployment, we're actually able to offer a 100% site availability SLA. So from a channel perspective, when you turn a customer up on Masergy, your work to get that customer in steady state, once they're in steady state, it kind of manages itself. So we're all in with Fortinet, and we don't see that changing anytime soon.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So security is obviously not just the domain of the all-in-one provider. Shane, my good friend, who's apparently running for public office or just got done with the primary yesterday. Shane, you're of course, with WAN Dynamics, and has really looked in the CNSG portfolio as a specialty provider. You not only do Velo Cloud combined with security, but you also do Eric's fun stuff with Bigleaf and combine that with the security solution as well. You obviously delve in pretty darn deep on not only security, but the best ways to implement SD-WAN. So for our audience today, as they look at the strategy, what's the secret to a good SD-WAN implementation, something WAN Dynamics is exceptionally great at?
Yeah, well, first, thank you very much for having me, Chris, here, giving the underdog grassroots company a shot here at this debate. You know,
you're definitely winning best dressed.
What we found as you know, the best way to guarantee or to give yourself the best shot at a productive and a positive installation and implementation experience is to really think about that process as starting well before the actual project management piece begins, before you get signature, really more so in the design and the discovery phase. You need to understand not only the wide area network, but you need to understand the customer's needs at the local area network level, as well as any outside as a service applications or any other infrastructure needs to be tied in. So we've all had the situation where we've jumped in with a customer, got inked very quickly, thought it was going to be an easy project, and had nothing but roadblocks and you know, surprises along the way. You know, us diving in with a white glove type experience for our customers in the design and in the discovery phase allows us to weed out as many of those roadblocks and as many of those speed bumps as possible before we actually get to the project management piece. Once we get there, it's really, for us, it's about having a standardized process that is also flexible to be able to respond quickly and efficiently to problems that may come up during the project management phase or surprises that may come up during the phase. So for us, it's really about having a process that is long-term, both in the discovery phase as well to the actual stand-up phase, and ensuring that we have some standardization across that process in terms of engineering and project management talent, but as well as kind of a standard process that will allow us to ask the right questions before we actually get in there and start standing up any sort of devices or solution.
Project management is always the hallmark of a great SD-WAN experience. So big kudos to you and to the other panelists here for their emphasis on project management. We didn't bring anyone here to you today that doesn't do what they can to bring a great network experience to you. One other little sales tip I'll add for folks is the importance of still doing that traditional audit and bill review as well, because you want to make sure that your customer's outside of contract. Because I'll tell you what, nothing will derail an SD-WAN implementation quicker than finding out that they got a 40 grand bill to another carrier. Not cool. All right, Mr. Seth Gibbs at Telesystem. A little bit of a warning for mute, my friend, but one thing that's unique about the Telesystem folks is that you offer 3 different flavors of SD-WAN. Olen had mentioned earlier, like the 3 different levels that the Pure Play does. Seth, obviously, Telesystem has, you know, kind of a small, medium, and large variety. Why did you choose to have a multi-platform, multi-tiered solution? And why do you feel it's important to go into a sales meeting with a customer with more than one weapon in your arsenal? Uh-oh. Mute. There we go.
I've had a great day today. My USB camera just decided to stop working in the middle of this. That's it's always good. So
sadly, we do not have redundancy for cameras yet. That's one thing SD-WAN does not do. Get on that, guys. All right, Seth, tell us a little bit about your multi-tiered approach and why that's a great strategy.
Appreciate that, Chris. So I feel it's important to be flexible and customizable for both an agent and for a customer. Every customer is different. You'll find that their networks are different. So you want to partner with a provider that's able to build a custom solution that fits that customer's needs. As you guys see, there's multiple SD-WAN solutions in the market. They all offer something unique. Some SD-WAN solutions are primarily focused on using SD-WAN technology to optimize traffic and improve application performance. Some solutions are more focused on security, and they have the benefit of adding some SD-WAN features. So some of these requirements, though, don't come up initially during the sales process. So it's important.
You don't say, really?
Yeah, no kidding. So it's important for an agent and a partner to have multiple options available so that they can, with confidence, pivot during that sales process without having to bring in new vendors and reschedule appointments. In some cases, obviously the most important factor is price. So it's also important to have an option that's that gives you those features, but also has a very competitive price point. And that's why we have the different offerings that we have. I think the other thing to keep in mind when choosing a partner with to partner with a provider is how they're offering SD-WAN as well. It's important to pick a provider that's not just reselling another vendor's product. Having that SD-WAN offering built within the provider's network will ensure quality. It'll also reduce any finger pointing if there's any issues going forward.
Again, finger pointing, that never happens.
I'd like to maybe refute a couple of those things. I do think it's important as a manufacturer. I think there's a lot of evidence to be said that we keep it in-house. We're not relying on resellers to put us in their data centers or anything like that. But even beyond that, one thing that I think is important, and actually Olen talked about this, the uptick in SaaS usage. The average company between 50 and 100 employees is spending today nearly $15,000 a month on SaaS-based applications. The conversation of, hey, here's your SD-WAN cost as it relates to your Comcast circuit, those days are gone. We're talking about protecting a $15,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 a month investment in SaaS applications. So we're one of the most cost-competitive SD-WAN manufacturers out there. Cost is certainly important, but to address it as the key component as to why people are buying, we've got to talk about what we're protecting them from, and we have to protect them from their initial investment. So functionality, ease of deployment, and long-term use visibility and all that is also critical.
Whoa! All right, Seth, what say
Chris,
you?
Can I jump in on that one too? Oh, sorry
let's give Seth a shot first here, as he was the first one called out. So Seth, what say you to that?
Actually, that's a good point and a firm belief of mine. I think originally when SD-WAN hit the market, it was kind of touted as an MPLS replacement product, as a cost savings product. And in reality, I think most of those solutions are not necessarily, they don't necessarily save money. And the motivation is to have better performance and have that redundancy. I do think it's important, though, to keep in mind that SD-WAN functionality works best between the customer's edge and the SD-WAN cloud. Outside of that, it doesn't work as well. A lot of those features aren't as effective. So if you have your voice switch and your other network components built within the same network as an SD-WAN solution, you can benefit so much more from that solution by having those devices right in that same core.
Great stuff. All right, Scott, do you want to use your redirect here or hold it for round two? Your call.
I think I'm gonna use it here real quick because I think, and it's in support of what Seth had said too. You know, regarding the finger pointing with the box providers and the potential network. You know, we're a network provider who does Fortinet, but we're also a Fortinet engineering company, right? So what we're seeing in the channel community is that, yeah, there's other VARs that sell Fortinet, and maybe they could sell Fortinet with a network. But when we see those VARs coming to us and saying, you know, we have a complicated Fortinet deployment, and we know the way you guys have it integrated into your core, we'd rather sell this as a channel partner of Masergy than sell this as a Fortinet VAR for the boxes. So that kind of proves that network finger pointing is top of mind even with our partners, where they'll partner with us earlier in the solution so they don't have to, so they can avoid that finger pointing. So supporting what Seth said.
Awesome stuff there. So after some initial shots from the pure plays, all-in-ones are fighting back. And we're now going to move into part two of this panel today. So first part of this, we have obviously focused on the strategy. You know, our audience here, we've heard a lot of different things regarding optimization of the networks, importance of security, the concept of the all-in-one bill, the factors of a great SD-WAN deployment. But now, let's talk about strutting our stuff, guys. You know, we've got a group here that we're all friendly. but we're all competing against each other. And a lot of times you've got pure plays and all-in-ones in on the same bid. So I'm starting off with Pat for a reason here, because I'm expecting some thunder here. Pat, call one. You literally, you got one in your name. As an all-in-one, you got it all there. You got one call for everything. Why do you like being that one back to Pat for network, UC, security, and SD-WAN? And from your perspective, is that the best route to go?
Well, Chris, it's been great to hear some of the comments from Eric and from Olen and Seth regarding the different ways that things get accomplished. What we find is that in the mid-market space, these busy IT guys are freaking out because they've got this work from home challenge. They've migrating all their applications to the cloud. And oh, by the way, they've got more and more compliance requirements to deal with. I can't tell you how many times we've been in conversations with an IT director saying, I need to do SD-WAN. Well, why? Because I need application performance. That's great. So that's wonderful. So you're not going to take all of your traffic and bring it back to your data center and drain it to the internet from there to get to Salesforce or 365 or whatever. So you want to use local egress, right? Okay, now where's your security go? And you get that puzzled dog look. Holy crap, right? And that's where the solution design means so much. And then you start talking about, okay, well, what does that really mean from a bandwidth performance? And so the conversation starts to go from, I need an SD-WAN solution to, I need to figure out how to get reliable, secure, always up applications that perform for my users so they're not looking at the little hourglass buzzing around, or worse yet, an error. And that's just the nightmare of everybody. So our whole approach around this thing is not, what kind of SD-WAN do you need? Do you need a security box? It's, what are you trying to get accomplished? And what tools can we bring to help you get that accomplished? That's why we've got, Versa for the big enterprise and the big cloud data centers, and Masergy for the branch offices, a couple different ways to do UC. I'll give you an example of a client we worked with not long ago. They had a 50 location distributor, and the conversation started with, we need SD-WAN. Why? Well, because it's, that's how we're going, because we've got to get rid of our MPLS. It ended up being 8 different access vendors on 12 different products to provide full diversity to each and every one of those locations, with a Versa SD-WAN that we also access with a gateway to be able to egress their voice traffic to their chosen SIP trunking provider, because they're still using a PBX, cloud PBX, right? They're going to go UC, but then we sit ready as that valued partner to take that on when that client expires that contract with that cloud UC provider. So it's all about bringing value to that busy IT guy who's just doesn't have the staff to really deal with all this change, let alone the forklift that's required to do this stuff right, and the 7x24 team to make sure that the applications never go down, never get hacked. That's where the solution comes in. That's why the all-in-ones have it on the pure play.
Ooh, okay. Who's got the redirect there?
Shane's got the redirect real quick.
Ooh, okay. Let's see what you got, Shane. What's your answer to that as Olen warms up his diabolical answer? Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate what Pat's saying here, but I keep being brought back to a familiar saying, a jack of all trades and a master of none. We can certainly appreciate, the ability to leverage multiple solutions under one roof, that single throat to choke. I think we've all had customers who would prefer it that way. But from a pure play and from with somewhat of a specialist perspective here, one thing that we actually love about, our kind of pitch in the market is that we don't do everything. So we can really guarantee our expertise and our focus on the wide area network, on SD-WAN, on next generation networking technologies. And really one of our reasons why we love CNSG and our partnership with you guys is because you guys look at, the solution from a holistic perspective. We really rely on, our partners like you guys to go out there and say, based on our experience, here's our best play at UCAS, here's our best play at firewall, here's our best play at SD-WAN. And what we really ensure is that the wide area network is designed in a way that can support multiple vendors, that can support multiple solutions, so that to the customer it's seamless and it's a single facing solution as far as they're concerned on the management endpoint and on the really just on the holistic approach to the network, how the solutions tie together. So we're finding, especially today, that you don't necessarily have to have one provider to give you every solution in order for it to feel like a seamless, holistic network solution. This type of technology, in our opinion, one of the really benefits of it is that you are able to stitch multiple technologies together, under the roof of SD-WAN or SDN.
Congressman Hurst, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cede the floor to Vice President Herron here. Pat, what do you think? Is he on to something?
I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, when the customer calls you at 10 o'clock at night and says, this ain't working, and you say, well, that's great. It looks good leaving here. Our SD-WAN's performing just right. I'm really sorry your voice traffic isn't performing the way it needs to. You better call those people. I mean, that's when you really have a problem with that busy IT guy. Now, maybe there's large organizations. I mean, Masergy they focus on that big enterprise client. They got big IT staffs, lots of capabilities. Our mid-market guys, they don't have that. They're looking for a partner that's going to take care of it in the middle of the night.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Like it. All right, Olen. Let's talk about Aryaka. You and Masergy have one thing in common here is that you're the two that can talk about we're global companies. Globalization, SDN as a primary focus of your company before SD-WAN was a cool word. That's always been a big part of Aryaka, and that's why you have the customers that you do. Yeah. Why has Aryaka maintained a global strategy, and why was it important to move into the U.S.? And is that global strategy still crucial to your success?
Well, let me go over here, my start button on my timer. So yes, it is, look, it's a really relevant differentiator for us. If you think about what I articulated earlier, our big key differentiators, our superpower is application performance, right? Like nobody does it better than we do, period, right? And it's because we're not just picking the path selection. We do something to the package, to the data, right? I'm not an engineer. We take it, we run our own WAN op stack, and it's a multifaceted. It does not just dedupe and compression, but it does this multi-segment TCP proxy. It does all this stuff. And then it does that on my core, on my backbone. So now if you take that and you extrapolate that application performance over greater distances, it just makes my differentiation that much greater. So my big differentiation will always be greatest when the information asset is further away from the customer and when it's coming from lots of different places and getting really complex. That's where we shine like nobody else. So is it important? Yes. But I would be remiss if I didn't take the next 46 seconds and do a commercial that for the last 3-4 months, we completely re-swizzled the product so that if you're a North American only, challenge was we were leaving too many dollars on the table. And partners wanted an Aryaka solution, but they wanted it at a price point that wasn't the rocket ship, right? So now we can go, great, it's North American only. I'm not going to burden you with that global connectivity, with all of that stuff that makes me special. You can buy my table stakes offering, jump in at $100.50, and then add that stuff only at the locations that are needed. So yes, really important part of the strategy, but no, not the only place where we can play and play really, really well.
Well, I got to say, when you set the rule of no sales pitches, you always know there's going to be one rule breaker, but it's a born sales guy like Olen Scott. That being said, Eric, I did notice all the UCaaS providers you name dropped, so I'm sure you're getting a royalty check there. More on that later. All right, Terry. Hypercore Networks has been one of our favorite all-in-one providers for a very long time, but I've even worked with you on projects where you guys are building out and doing the network and taking care of all those cable connections and all those fiber builds and all those horrible things that Eric, Olen, and Shane don't want to deal with. But then you see, man, you gave the SD-WAN to Bigleaf or Aryaka or WAN. Are customers missing out on the value of the all-in-one provider when they pair pure play with an all-in-one?
Well, no, they definitely do. I mean, there's value that comes in play from an all-in-one to begin with, and that's our value is working with the pure plays as well. It's bringing everything in together and giving that turnkey type solution to the customer at the end of the day, so they have anything and everything they need with the support structure on the back end that they know that they can dial one number and be able to run to it. There's a reason why we do business with more than half the people that are on this presentation right now as it stands. And it's because we're able to tie everything back in to where it should be, and be able to support the customers from top to bottom any which way they need to. I mean, part of the reason why, excuse me, part of the reason why people started dealing with MPLS to begin with was the simplification, turnkey type solutions that it brought to the table. You had one provider that you had to go to. Was it costly? Absolutely. Well, hey, now you have an SD-WAN offering to be able to go into it. Now it's just about educating the partners, say, hey, make sure to ask the aggregation questions as well, bring this all in together. So now we're giving you the turnkey benefits of everything as a whole at a better cost ultimately when it's all said and done, with all the same enterprise functionality that Olen and Eric had talked about earlier that's needed in order to be able to sustain a customer long term.
So Terry Patrick and Hypercore, ladies and gentlemen, the peace and love aggregator of choice. That'll work. All right, moving right along to Mr. Brooker. So Eric, Bigleaf had some exceptionally early success in the SD-WAN revolution because you decoupled security from the SD-WAN. It was a huge hit with a lot of MSPs that were doing their own security solution, and it was hands down one of the main reasons for your success. I still remember Ryan Beer coming in to do a sales presentation talking about the simplicity of Bigleaf. We don't want your firewall. You use your firewall. So my challenge to you, my friend, is as customers are getting more, or to me, as partners are getting more adept at selling security as a service, is that still the right strategy for Bigleaf?
So great question. Again, I'll articulate. We took a massive investment in September of last year, so something is working. Couple that with the fact that we just had our second greatest sales month ever. I will tell you, channel partners, the sub-agent community is becoming more adept to selling it, but that number, as it amasses throughout all the master agents, is still less than 10%. So less than 10% of the sub-agent community is selling security. Number one. Number two, most of the partners that we meet with, Pat, I got that information from all of the master agents. I can share that with you after. But beyond that, most of the customers that we talk to have just invested in the last 18 to 24 months in a security policy. So when we readdress the security policy, we have to readdress manual policy configurations. We have to readdress HIPAA compliance. We have to readdress PCI compliancy. We've decoupled it because it's what makes sense. We are the subject matter experts, along with some folks on this panel and thought leaders in SD-WAN. We are not, nor do I believe is anyone on this panel, subject matter experts or thought leaders in firewall technology. That is technology that has been deployed long before any of these companies existed, and there are thought leaders and well-respected organizations that have built themselves as firewall and security experts. Now, I'm certain someone is going to rebut that.
I thought someone was going to jump on Olen's "nobody does application management better." But does anyone want to challenge Eric? Although Scott is sitting there going, "I'm the next one to answer a question." Seth, what say you, my friend?
Yeah, I didn't really. It's not an attack at all. I actually had a question for you. Do you find it concerning that a lot of these big firewall players are starting to add SD-WAN functionality? Meraki has it, and it's basically free. You can just turn it on. Others are working towards that as well. Do you see that as a challenge?
Ooh, Seth goes with a business consultation question for Bigleaf. Eric?
Yeah, it's a great question, Seth. I would say that we haven't seen any of the firewall experts or subject matter experts, thought leaders, really come in a meaningful way in the SD-WAN conversation. Most of what they're doing is addressing pure outages, where most of us sitting at this table today are addressing not just the outages, the blackout scenario, but we're addressing the brownout scenario, the roughly 23 to 25 hours a month of unusable performance. I think Pat addressed it as sort of that spinny globe of Netflix that can challenge a sale, it can challenge a telemedicine experience. So I don't worry about it yet. I think most everyone at this table is well respected in SD-WAN space, and I think we're going to see firewall experts come into this space because it's relevant, but I don't see them as a concern at this point.
All right, good stuff here. So, Eric, you made some pretty bold statements about security. So Scott,
Here comes Masergy.
yeah, you know that company that has a couple socks across the country, across the world. So, in all fairness here, Scott, my friend, Masergy has always been known as a security-first company. Does security drive the SD-WAN discussion for you, and why do you think they should be sold together?
Yeah, well, it looks like I did miss a couple of rebuttals there, but I can incorporate them into this answer as best as I can. So, Chris, 100% absolutely. As our partners know, we have 3 global SOCs. We are a security company as a standalone product. If you go back in time a couple of years, those security discussions were happening at a CISO or a higher level, and those network discussions are still happening in IT. When we made that big bet to go all in with Fortinet, we banked on all that converging, which is what we're seeing now. So, Eric, I'm gonna throw your stat back at you a little bit here. 90% of enterprises are actively researching SD-WAN, and 81% say security is their top factor. So my statement to the partner community is, if only 10% of partners are selling security, then that means the majority of your customers are getting talked to about security by somebody else. So the challenge to the partner community is to talk to a company like Masergy, who has a security-first approach. As we see those conversations converge, we're seeing a paradigm shift, much like what we saw with voice 15 years ago. There used to be that telco manager, and then eventually IT took it over. That's what's happening with security and SD-WAN right now. That CISO is no longer down the hall as an introduction after an SD-WAN meeting. He's in the SD-WAN meeting, or she is in the SD-WAN meeting. So it cannot be an afterthought. Security is embedded into the fabric of SD-WAN. It's what our customers want to hear. It's what our partners need to know about. And we thoroughly vet out those security needs during that discovery process, so we know when's the right time to introduce UTM into those FortiGates. Does our SOC need to manage those FortiGates, or is this something that they have taken care of? So those are absolutely part of every discussion we have about SD-WAN.
Whoa! All right, Eric, I'm going to give you a bonus 30 seconds and 30 seconds only to respond to that, because Scott just lit you up. So tell us what you think.
Yeah, no, listen, Scott and I play in very different conversations. Masergy is an enterprise organization that sells to the enterprise. The 3Ms, the Best Buys, the General Mills. There's a great home for that. And there's a lot of education that the sub-agent community needs to adopt, including the idea of firewall technology. We sit in a different spot. We're in the small, medium to mid-market space. So I would agree with Scott in many respects. That being said, again, we're talking to customers who in the last 18 to 24 months have already or just addressed firewall technology. They don't want to recreate policies. They have limited IT resources, different from Scott's typical conversation of a General Mills who's got 1,000 people on staff to reconfigure and readdress PCI and HIPAA compliancy. So there's a lot of truth to what he's saying, and I think in the small to medium mid-market business, I think Scott would agree with me as well.
Good stuff there, guys. Obviously, Eric turning it around to a differentiator, because that's the master sales guy that he is. Got some great strategy here, folks. All right, Shane, or should I say Congressman Hurst, you get to...
Hey, Chris, do I get my 30 seconds on the rebuttal?
Oh, okay. Hold on just 1 second, Congressman Hurst.
Go ahead.
Go for it, Scott.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Eric just said. Just one point of differentiator. We're not just global. We're not just enterprise anymore. Our pricing and our solutions are really fit. And you know, Olen brought it up with the Aryaka discussion. You know, we can play in the metro space and certainly in the national space now. So those conversations are really more about, you know, what applications are you running? Where are they sitting? You know, what are you looking for in that all-in-one provider? They're not necessarily just limited to those global customers. So for us, our ideal customer is not just how big are they and where are they located, but more about how do they want their network managed or co-managed, you know, right? So Fortinet offers the ability to do both. So yep. I don't want to leave this call thinking we're just a global play anymore, because we're not.
When I think we'll see a lot of partners coming out of this requesting quotes from all of you to see how you all compare. All right, Congressman Hurst, going back to you, sir. By the way, I do love the tie. So you get to cheat here in the fact that you are a pure play SD-WAN provider, but you also have a huge security emphasis. In fact, we talked about, you know, you marry security together with VeloCloud. You marry security together with Bigleaf. Do you see your customers choosing security with the majority of your sales? Or to Eric's point, are a lot of them just going with the SD-WAN?
Yeah, in the spirit of a true politician, I think I'm going to come right in the middle on this question here. And I'm going to start at the beginning here. Why is SD-WAN so popular? We hear about the cloud, or we hear about redundancy, or all these features and functionality. The short answer is options. SD-WAN gives you options over traditional networking technology did not. In the same vein here, I would say about half of our customers, I would say almost all of them, are having that conversation during the SD-WAN discovery phase. About half of them end up either going with a new security solution, or reconfiguring, or adding in some cloud firewall, some network firewall into a traditionally on-premise security structure. But everyone's having that conversation. So what we're seeing, in our opinion, is that you need to have the option for both down the road. And we've mentioned some players, some firewall vendors getting into the SD-WAN space, and you're going to start seeing SD-WAN vendors going the opposite way, getting into the security space. Because there are some companies who are going to need and require that marriage within one throat to choke, and there are going to be some that are going to either, like Eric said, already have just completed a firewall refresh, or have just made a large investment in a Palo Alto or a Fortinet or something along those lines. And for them, the conversation about well, why don't you marry security with our SD-WAN solution is going to be a non-starter. So I think again, as far as we're going to see, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to drive SD-WAN. It's going to be options. Do you have the option to marry security in? Do you have the option to leave it separate? Again, can you create a solution that is specific and right for our customer, and our customer being that opportunity you're working with, because everyone's going to be a little bit different.
Great stuff. All right, Mr. Gibbs, coming to you, my friends. SD-WAN is not, as we might hope, or as some of the marketing for manufacturers, especially out at the beginning, it's not always plug and play. It's not always that simple. It's also a technology that impacts all elements of the customer's network. So when you look at that from a partner perspective, when you're starting with an all-in-one provider like Telesystem, which has a huge product portfolio, you have more things to sell to that customer than a pure play does, hands down. So when you're dealing with that all-in-one provider, how can you help how can you help a partner grow the account over time by working with Telesystem?
I think that's a huge benefit to partners. We've found that more and more companies are looking at moving multiple services to the cloud. We talked about it earlier. A company may be interested in SD-WAN and VoIP, for example, but they don't have the stomach to do both projects at the same time. So I think it's important for an agent to be able to take advantage of the pricing discounts associated with quoting multiple solutions at the same time. So it's a huge benefit if the agent can work with a provider that's flexible enough to split those projects up, follow the customer's timeline. I think that's a huge value, and it makes it much easier for an agent to also increase their wallet share with that customer. Being able to start with a simple voice solution, maybe over-the-top voice, and then later grow that account by adding dedicated circuits and SD-WAN and secure Wi-Fi, maybe even call center. We have actually a good example of that going on right now. We service or provide services for a large county that started out as just some dedicated fiber circuits that they were looking to save some money on. The agent was then able to add the SD-WAN later on, and just recently that same county added secure Wi-Fi as a solution. So that agent was able to shorten the time to signature because Telesystem was already a pre-approved vendor, and the customer was happy and comfortable with the deployment. In a very relatively short time frame, that account has tripled in size, and in the long run, the more solutions you're able to offer will lead to a very sticky customer, and it also just highlights the value of that agent in the eyes of the customer.
Good stuff there, Seth. Thank you so very much. And with that, we have reached the end of this lively debate. We have we settled the question? Is it always great to use an all-in-one carrier? I see Pat going, yeah. Or is the expertise that a pure play provider brings to the table the way to go? I will leave the answer to the audience here. But to our esteemed panelists here, I want to thank you all so very much for joining us today. You guys have been amazing.
Thanks, Chris.